Hey there, fellow adult collectors. Welcome back. David Dion here from the Open by Chance Toy and Action Figure Museum, sharing a discussion here with you today, inviting you also to chime in on this and get the discussion going, keep the discussion going in the comments section, talking about the new Mego. Now, a lot of you already know who I am. For those of you who have never seen any videos on this channel before, I'm David Eon. I do this with my wife, known as LPH or Lady Pop Hunter. The pop stands for pop culture, not necessarily Funko. But we are collectors of vintage and modern action figures, comic books, things like that. We do this together. We have a big museum that we have, private museum in our house. And we do a lot of tours, we do a lot of discussions, so on and so forth. And I personally have a very long history in this. I was a dealer of action figures, toys, and comic books in the early 90s. So I've been at this for a long time, and I've watched a lot of things come and go. And Mego is on a rocky pedestal right now. And that's what we're talking about here today. And I'm going to knock a lot of the emotion out of it and just speak logically and from experience. So don't take it too personally. Don't get try not to get upset. Try not to get upset and take it too personally what I'm saying. I'm just being straight up, and don't think I'm dumping on Mego. I'm just making, again, honest and hopefully valid points. Mego coming back was a big deal, especially to lots of old school collectors like myself who were really happy to see it. I'm happy to see Mego back. I was surprised. I was like, wow, Mego's going to fire things back up again, and it's going to look like the old ones. That's really cool. And they have produced some nice stuff. I was happy to see Mego come back, even excited about it. But then I was kind of surprised, as I think a lot of you were, by some of the bad choices that were made so far as the franchises that they elected to work with. And some people blame Target for that. I don't know if Target's necessarily responsible for it, but I did personally, off track a little bit, have a problem with the fact that it was exclusive at Target, which made it very difficult to find a lot of this stuff. And part of the reason for that, I've speculated, could be because Target, the corporation, has an incentive program for up-and-comers, people with new product, that they will fund you if you sell through them exclusively, at least in the beginning. And that could be what helped Mego to get fired up again. But I don't know too much about their corporate politics to 100% say that's what it is. But that's what I'm pretty sure happened, and why it was exclusive at Target for at least, the first couple of years almost. Now, people right now are into the modern Megos for a variety of reasons, mostly nostalgia for the original Mego. I hope that's the reason why, but there are a lot of people that are doing it as an investment, because action figures are viewed as an investment, as are comic books. So they're into it for a variety of reasons. Now, I have a few of the new ones myself. I don't have a lot of new ones. I kind of stopped because I found them to be too hard to locate out in the wild. And it got a little frustrating running out hunting for it all the time. But I'm not going to worry about it too much, because I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to find them again at some point in the future. I don't see them as being very likely as going up in value. So I don't believe they're going to be that hard to track down in the long run. And I'll explain that a little bit here in a moment. You have also people, one of the reasons that it can be kind of hard also, people buying multiples. There are people who buy multiples of certain figures. They get a dozen of each or whatever. And there's a couple of reasons why people do that. And one reason I can agree with and one I can't. Now, if you're buying multiples because you believe that it's going to go up in value, you're making a huge mistake. You're making a huge mistake. First of all, the majority of vintage Megos really aren't worth that much. If we're going to be straight up honest, some of the 3 3/4 inch action figures can be rather pricey because they didn't make too many of them. And the superheroes and the Planet of the Apes figures can be worth quite a bit because they were in such high demand. Most of the rest of them, they're really not that expensive. Which ties in with people buying the modern ones because they think they can't afford the old Mego. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for the Waltons or the standard Wizard of Oz figures or our gang or something, you're not going to pay a whole hell of a lot. They're actually pretty cheap, even mint on the card. But if you're looking for the superheroes and stuff like that, they're worth a lot more because of the scarcity of it, because back then kids actually played with toys. So if you're buying multiples because you think they're going to go up in value, you're making a huge mistake. The difference being, of course, aside from what's considered valuable and what isn't, because supply and demand is everything. That's why the superheroes and the Planet of the Apes are worth so much. Back then, we opened everything. So 98% of all of the superhero and Planet of the Apes figures that were produced were opened. And probably 80% of those are in rough shape. So of the ones that were opened, I mean. So that makes them very rare, very difficult to find in decent condition. Plus, they weren't really made to last. They fade, they fall apart easy. They weren't thinking at that time, oh, 40, 50 years from now, people are going to want these intact. It didn't cross anybody's mind at that time period because there was an adult collector's market, but they were into all the stuff that they grew up with in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. They wanted tin wind-up stuff. They wanted electric trains. Nowadays, almost none of the new Megos are being opened. They're going to stay sealed. They're not going to go up. The other reason that people buy multiples is because they just really like the new figures. And if that's the case, I really can't be mad at you. If you're buying them because you just love it and you're just like, okay, you know what, I just got to have one more of these, I really can't fault somebody for doing that. I really can't. If they're really into it and they're really enjoying the hobby, I can't strike somebody for that. I'm only striking if you think you're going to have an investment out of it. You could be very disappointed. Another reason, and I've already kind of run this over, people buy the newer ones is because they think they can't afford the old ones. And again, it depends on what you're looking for. Because a lot of the older ones, and don't look at what people are trying to do buy it nows for on eBay. Look for what they sell at auction, when you can buy like the standard Wizard of Oz figures for around 25 bucks a piece mint in the box from 1974, or the R gangs going out for around 25 a piece mint on the card. It depends on what you're looking for, Mego. If you just love Mego, you can find this stuff pretty cheap. If you are looking for the ones that everybody opened in the old days and played with, that's when you're going to pay a lot. And I know a lot of people, let me just tackle this one real quick because I know someone's going to bring it up. They think that there's going to be a value because of the numbers. Oh, there's 10,000 or less, and oh, there's these are low numbers and stuff. Low number runs won't matter in the long run. Look at anything from 90s Playmates, because that was the big thing, wasn't it? Where they Playmates is the one that started that with stamping a number on the foot of the action figure. And back in the day when I was dealing in the 90s, when Playmates Star Trek figures, you could get aftermarket for between $20 and $100 a piece and get a premium on figures that were with a low number run. And now you can't get $2, $3 a piece for them. Those numbers aren't going to make a big difference in the long run. So let's get on to the meat of the discussion. What's going on with Mego? Basically, and unfortunately, Mego is making some of the same basic mistakes that they made back in the 70s and 80s, producing action figure lines that no one was interested in. Sort of works now because there's an adult collector's market now that's seeking nostalgia, which did not work back in the 70s and 80s. But for some reason, Mego went back to the same formula instead of changing things up. They seem bent on producing action figure lines of characters that really just is not interesting to their fan base. It wasn't interesting to the fan base then. It's not interesting to the fan base now. And the Star Wars point, I'm gonna nail that one to the wall right now because I know some of you are thinking this. People like to enable Mego by making the mistaken claim and assumption that they sank in the 80s because of rejecting the Star Wars license, which prompted them to take any license that came their way, like the Love Boat, Moonraker, for instance, obvious shelf warmers that hurt the company. But that's not necessarily true. Mego was already in the habit of jumping on any license they could get. They were producing action figure lines that were major shelf warmers long before what happened with the Star Wars license. Think about it. Happy Days, Our Gang, Wizard of Oz, Laverne and Shirley, Captain and Tennille, 1 Million BC, The Waltons, Farrah Fawcett dolls, Sonny and Cher dolls, and many more. Too many to name. All these were shelf warmers in the 70s. That's why you can still find so many boxed and carded examples of them today, and for not that much money either. They sell fairly cheap at a straight up auction. And that's also why you can't find, again, Planet of the Apes and Superheroes, because that's the one everybody wanted back in the day. They weren't shelf warmers. They flew off the shelves. The rest of the stuff sat there until it ended up on clearance, and you could still find many boxed and carded examples now for short money. So the truth is, most of what Mego produced just wasn't very popular then. And now that they're back, they're still doing it. They're still doing it, and I get it, because the people working with Mego, Marty, whoever, they're like, yeah, now there's an adult nostalgia market. And I did a video a long time ago saying why now's the time for Mego, because now it makes sense the way that they do their business model, because back then people weren't looking for that sort of thing. There was no adult collectors market. Like I said, adult toy collectors then were collecting model trains and wind-up robots and cat pistols and stuff. Adult collectors now want what they had when they were kids. What was the big thing when we were kids? Action figures. From between 64 to 94, 95, in that 30-year pocket, it was action figure heaven. And that's what we remember, and that's what we want in our age category. But some of the stuff, some of the choices that are being made are not things that, even if we're nostalgic for the stuff that we associated to when we were children, isn't things that we would want a figure of, like The Facts of Life or Charmed or even Cheers. As popular as the Norm figure, I guess, was, but I think that's primarily because he came with a beer mug. I don't think they have to do it that way. I would be personally happy, and again, chime in and make your own points here. I'd be happy if all they did was sci-fi movie and television figures and monsters. Monsters, be honest. What would you rather see figures of? Three's Company and Good Times, which are probably on the list for future releases, or Logan's Run? Or Logan's Run, did they ever have an action figure? Or the $6 Million Man? Sci-fi and superhero stuff, movies and TV and cartoons and comic books, are where our hearts were then. And that's what we would be looking for now. Battlestar Galactica? I mean, come on, think about it. What would you rather see? And how about original or generic characters? The monsters, they don't have to be well-known movie monsters all the time. I understand there's a whole thing with franchising, especially Universal monsters. The franchising can get quite expensive. I'd love to see them create some original characters, some more original characters. I mean, they have Action Jackson. They could expand on Action Jackson. They could make up their own monsters, their own creatures. If it's visually appealing and it feels like a 70s figure when you look at it, I think that would go over really well. And another mistake is I don't really feel like they're connecting with the fans. If they were connecting with the fans, because what I'm saying is similar to a lot of things that I've heard. Also, it's like, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And I've done the speculation, hey, they should make figures of this and that. And it's fun to speculate, but do you really want to see figures of that stuff? It's like, hey, they should do Three's Company. Should they? Again, it's fun to speculate, but as far as a business model, it's not a very good choice. So they've got to connect with fans. They've got to recognize that the bulk of people who are purchasing their project or purchasing their product are around my age, our age. Kids aren't buying this stuff now. They're not buying hardly action figures at all anymore. They're not interested in action figures and toys. We're in the electronic age. They want video games. They want instant gratification. They want visual stimulation constantly, constantly. They want to immerse themselves in a game. We're in the gaming era, and action figures, they're sliding away. Do you remember when you were a kid and the new Star Wars figures would come out and it was an entire aisle? G.I. Joe, an entire aisle. Now the entire toy department is one aisle because no one buys this stuff anymore. Do you remember when board games and puzzles were 2 or 3 aisles deep? Where are they now? People aren't interested in it anymore, or the kids aren't. The kids aren't engaged that way anymore. And, another thing is that with so many companies out there giving competition, constant competition for the attention of the adult collectors market, it makes it very easy for collectors to be fickle with what it is that they want to buy or they're interested in. They can afford to be picky because it's easy to move on. And that's what makes Wave 8 so important for Mego right now, which still hasn't come out. No fault of their own. That's not something they can really help because the whole virus situation, a lot of places were forced to close or cease operations. They can't help that. But they're on a preface right now. They're teetering. The delay and the constant delays haven't helped, but a lot could depend on how popular this is. If they produce another wave of shelf warmers, another batch of tooties and Married with Children that just sit there, it's not going to look good. I mean, clearance, when a certain line of anything, any product continues to end up on clearance, it's a very bad sign to the distributor, the store. Eventually, they're not going to want to deal with you anymore, and they're going to cut you off. They say, you know what, we don't want any more Mego product. It doesn't sell. It just sits there and sits there. So, again, that's not something that Mego can help at the moment, but when that wave comes out, it's got to be a hit. 8 and possibly 9, it's got to be a hit, or people are going to really start walking away from it. And, the one saving grace they have, or a couple of saving graces actually, is the price point, the overall look of the figure, because it looks like a 70s figure, and actually their packaging and card stock are pretty good quality, despite the fact that a lot of the distributors, when they mail it to your house, beat the hell out of it. But their card stock is good quality. Their packaging is good quality. The figure looks and has a feel of a 70s figure. I got Muhammad Ali sitting right here. This to me, this feels like a 70s figure. And the price point, because they really haven't passed the $20 mark on individual 8-inch figures so far. They've had some dogs, like the 14-inch figures didn't go over well. The 2-packs, I think a problem with a lot of the 2-packs is because they were all damaged. Well, most of them were damaged. Every 2-pack I saw was just crushed. And distribution is an issue because the stuff, it can be hard to find. And sometimes when you do find it, it's beaten up or has cuts in it or something because of just mishandling by the company, by the store. I found a bunch in Books A Million once, a bunch of Freddy's, and they were all bent. They were all bent, and that's something that Books A Million did. So have I prattled on long enough? Did I make any sense to you? Did I make any points that you find to be valid? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Whether you think I'm right or wrong or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm just speaking from experience. and sharing that knowledge. Just checking my phone real quick. It was flashing at me. I wanted it to stop. But just speaking from my own experience, having done this for a long time, watched trends come and go, and chiming in on my opinion based on those experiences. And I could be right or wrong. And what do you think? Please do tell me what your thoughts are in the comments section down below. Please do share the video if you feel like it's got some valid points and you want some other people to see it. Please do share it. Give it a thumbs up if you get where I'm coming from. Subscribe if you're new. Please do join the Open by Chance family. We do a lot on this channel. We have discussions. We do tours. We go out. We just did a tour of the Lunchbox Museum. We got a lot going on this channel. Giveaways and plenty of nostalgia here to go around. So please look around and see if you'd like to hang around for a while. And I guess I've gone on long enough, so I'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.